It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what's going on, sir?
Not much. I spent all day yesterday celebrating your birthday. And, no, it's your birthday yesterday. Happy belated birthday.
I'm old. I officially got into the 3-0. So I know.
Go away.
Rough.
Just go away with that. Stop.
I'm officially like past my prime, right? 30-year-olds like in the NFL is like when it's getting close to being done. So not when it comes to being a podcaster, though. We got plenty of time.
Yeah, you got lots. You're just hitting your prime, and we're not going to talk about age groups and how they're past your prime at 30 because I won't mention my current age. That'll be fine. It'll be fine.
All right, Landon, we got a fun show today. I've been really looking forward to doing this one. We're going to talk about some undrafted free agents, and three in particular that we think might have a chance to make the Cowboys roster. I want to start with a running back from Tiffin, Jaquan Hardy, who I think you might like a little bit. He's really interesting, Landon. He missed the entire 2018 season with an injury. Last year, the fall season got canceled, and he opted out of the 2021 spring season. What did you think of Jaquan Hardy when you watched this tape?
I mean, he is I think I described him as miniature Marion Barber, and I still kind of stand by that. He just looks, he's so violent, and he doesn't and part of it is that he's playing guys who are gonna be, who probably can't even qualify for a flag football league after they're done with college. They're so small. But I mean, look, this dude's running through guys. He's carry. I mean, there was one play I saw where it looked like he was carrying all 11 defenders at one point. So he's just like very violent with his cuts. He's not super explosive, but he gets the job done. He has like a level of toughness and lower body strength that can kind of keep bounces off things. You see him take hits and then kind of just spin off and keep running and keep his momentum going. I think he's a guy who is going to be able to come in here and give you some good reps, just to kind of get everybody used to tackling. I think the first day the pads come on, I guarantee you this guy is going to get a big round of applause when he bounces off some tackle and keeps going, and everyone's going to go, ooh, and then it's going to be like that moment that kind of really steps the tackling up to the next level. I could just see it right now. So I think he's a guy who's going to come in here, and if he can put together a couple of good days and keep some consistency, it's a huge step up in competition. It's a huge step up in competition, without a doubt. But I think he has the kind of tools to potentially stick around, just because, like I said, he's very tough to bring down. He's got a low center of gravity, and he's powerful. And I think that kind of combination of low center of gravity and explosion, it could take you far in the NFL, and especially in training camp, where he's going to get a ton of looks. He's going to get a ton of carries, likely in the preseason games. He's going to get a lot of opportunity. These running backs get a lot of opportunity to show off what they've got. So I think this is a guy who I'd like to see a little bit more what he has as a pass catcher, because I didn't see a ton of that. But I think that as far as a guy who can break tackles, who can run inside and outside, I think I'm interested to see exactly how he kind of matches up with some of these guys who are obviously a little bit more come from a little bit more elite competition and have a little bit less of a steep kind of curve getting into the NFL.
So I know you have a fun comp for him in Marion Barber, right? That's a lot of fun. But the comp that I kind of gave, and it's not just because of the hair and the size necessarily, but Devonta Freeman, right, who played for the Falcons for a long time, because like Freeman, he doesn't have like long speed. Like he's not one of these. He's not like Tony Pollard, right? Like if he's in the open field, he's just going to kill you. But he's pretty quick and he's got good, contact balance. And I think he can run between the tackles despite being shorter. Mm-hmm. I really like him. Like I think this is somebody who could be a third running back in the NFL. And the Cowboys, I mean, you look at their depth chart after Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, there's some guys that we like, but it's not like anybody's grabbed a hold of that job. So I think Hardy I think he has a good chance of maybe earning that third running back spot.
Yeah, he has a level of physicality that I think is definitely required for that third running back spot because, I mean, he, again, like a lot of these other guys that we've talked about, he's going to have to earn his way onto the team through special teams. I mean, if he's going to be the third running back, he's going to need to be on almost every single special team that he's basically eligible for. So I think that that's really going to be the key is with running back, it's kind of a weird thing, right? Because you get so many snaps during training camp. You're one of the rare down roster players who will get a ton of practice snaps because they don't want to wear out Zeke, they don't want to wear out Pollard, so you're going to see a ton of snaps actually playing running back. But you're going to have to balance that and what you're learning as a running back in training camp and what you're taking on assignment wise, and balance it with all your assignments in special teams, which is actually going to be what helps you make the team, and that can be difficult for younger players. And so it'll be interesting to see if he's able to take that on. It's a lot more. It's not even just a physical step for him coming from Tiffin. It's a lot that he's going to have to take on mentally to kind of take on the role of a running back who not screw up practice by, running left when you're supposed to be running right. Yeah. And then on top of that, knowing your assignments in the special teams portion of practice as well. Just hopefully, really the toughest part for him might not be the physicality part. That might be the fun part. The difficult part might be the mentality of just kind of having to learn all those different parts and be such a kind of integral part of practice when you're that kind of running back.
All right. Over under 50 touches for him in the preseason.
Over.
Yeah.
Over.
He's going to get a ton of work. Yeah. And I'm excited to see it because I think he's going to be really fun. Really just a good prospect. I think he does have a pretty good chance to make this team. The last thing I want to say about Hardy really quickly is I like your idea of going into these games and not necessarily knowing the number of the player, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're watching a guy at Tiffin, he better stand out, right? Yeah. Like he better jump off the screen. And I think he did, Landon. Like in 2019, which is his third year playing at Tiffin, 1,500 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns in 11 games. Like he was productive, and it was pretty clear like he was the best player on the field on every single snap.
I mean, the first snap I ever saw this guy was the play that I was telling you about where he carried 10 guys, and I was like, oh, that's my guy right there. Yeah, I mean, it's a little difficult. It's a little different when it's the running back and he's a running back, but I do think that method does still hold true, and especially when you talk about small school guys, right? Like just turn on the tape, don't know what the number is. You kind of have an idea, obviously, what the position is. See if this guy pops out. Like I said, there's only one running back on the field, but he still managed to pop out.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about Nugenix. Nugenix is the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC, and they are offering a complimentary bottle to all football fans in America. To get your absolutely free bottle of Nugenix Total T, all you have to do is text DRAFT to 231-231. This unique man-boosting formula is powered by Tiffin, which helps boost free testosterone and total testosterone levels and increase energy and lean muscle mass. All you have to do for your free bottle, again, is text DRAFT to 231-231. Also want to tell you guys about BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all of the action at BetOnline. Before the next pitch, head over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device and check out all their great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their runs to the playoffs. Head to the website or use your mobile device and sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Landon, let's talk about a really interesting tight end, Nick Eubank from Michigan. The Cowboys now have 2 Michigan tight ends on their team. I don't think Harbaugh knew how to use either one of these players, but tell me what you think about Eubanks.
Yeah, before we get too far to Eubanks, I did have a question here. Do you think that is something that they like maybe feel comfortable, or they know what's being coached at the Michigan tight end group, and that's why they feel like they feel comfortable poaching there? Because it does seem odd that they picked back-to-back tight ends from the same school in back-to-back years, right?
Yeah, but I also think both of these guys were like big recruits coming out of high school. So I think they like the ability that they're, they've got good size. They've played at a big program. They're big recruits. I just think they're finding some value here, and they're not having to spend any, resources to go get them.
Yeah. I liked Nick. I thought he was an interesting player. He certainly has some receiving skills. I mean, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he's a converted wide receiver, right? He was a highly recruited wide receiver coming into college, and then I think they ended up moving him to tight end. He's played the position for a couple of years now.
Yep.
He doesn't have any interest at all at blocking.
No,
like it doesn't and that's there's a difference between not having any skill and not having any interest, and he doesn't seem to have any interest. In fact, there's snaps where it looks like he is trying to hide on tape, like he's trying to. Oh, I'm getting close to the offensive lineman. I'm sealing off, but in reality, I don't think he's engaged with anybody. So I have some concerns there because, look, not knowing how to block in the NFL, run block for the NFL as a tight end, that's not abnormal for a tight end coming into college. But having no willingness to do it, that concerns me a little bit. But what I will say is that as a receiver, he clearly has some athleticism there. He clearly has some skills. There's something worth developing there. My question is kind of almost the opposite of Hardy, right? Does he have a kind of requisite toughness and physicality to hang on this roster? Because as a lower on the depth chart tight end, he's going to need to do a lot of things that aren't receiving the football, that are blocking, that are special teams and blocking on special teams, and tackling and that sort of thing. So I liked a lot of what I saw when they used him as receiver. I felt like he was more engaged when they put him out in route, and I thought that he definitely there's a clear line when he's going through the motions and when he's not, and that's clearly when he's involved in the play or a part of the play as a receiver. So I do have, like I said, I have concerns about that. If the Cowboys can find a way to kind of work around that, though, I do think he does have some skills as a wide receiver that are intriguing and worth kind of developing.
All right, so a couple things on Eubanks. First of all, I think him going to Michigan was a terrible fit for his skill set, right? Because he's not a blocker, right? And they try to use him sometimes like that. They try to use him in line. And he just went into an offense that was a low-volume passing attack with terrible quarterback play. It just didn't do him any favors at all. Now, you're right that the blocking is atrocious, and he just doesn't care. And that's probably why he went undrafted, right? It's probably. That's not surprising at all. However, I will say I don't think he's all that different from like Blake Jarwin coming out of Oklahoma State, right? Jarwin had no interest in blocking, and he played in an offense that maybe utilized his skill set a little better. So if he would have went to, let's say, a Big 12 school and he's playing as a slot receiver all the time, I think you would not only see obviously better numbers, you would have saw a more productive, useful player and somebody who probably sneaks into day 3 at some point. He's a pretty good athlete. Like, again, cross-compare him to Blake Jarwin, and you'll see that he actually is a far better athlete. He ran in the 4.6s for somebody 240 pounds. I don't think he's somebody who makes the Cowboys 53-man roster this year. However, neither did Blake Jarwin. Remember? Blake Jarwin was a practice squad guy who the Cowboys eventually, later on during his rookie season, kind of they put on the roster so he wouldn't get stolen by the Eagles, right?
Who we kept thinking was Gavin Escobar for the first few practices because we didn't even know who the kid was.
Right. It wouldn't shock me at all if Eubanks has a similar kind of trajectory in the NFL, because there's just not many guys that are, what is he, 6'5", 245 pounds and runs in the 4.6s. Like, there's just not many of those guys out there. And despite how bad of a blocker he is, I would not be surprised at all if he catches on somewhere as a third tight end. If it's not in Dallas, somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the whole thing with him is willingness, and that's something that's hard for us to kind of parse through watching tape, right? I could tell by watching tape he's not willing to block at that moment. And to be fair, I watched him in an Indiana game where he was down by 20 points at one point. So and there is some circumstance, and I do think that you can reach these guys, in a certain degree. I just can't, glean any of that from watching tape. So I think that there is something. Yes. I think that that's the thing, right? Is that if you could light a fire under this guy, or if you interview with this guy and be like, and the guy's like, and frankly, it's kind of like the Kelvin Joseph thing, right? Where, part of the issue was that he didn't want to play and get hurt because he wanted to go to the NFL, and so I can understand how coaches in general don't like that kind of thought process, but you're in the NFL now. You're being paid. So if the idea is to get paid and that you're willing, I think there is a section of players, and we've seen it, right, that don't like the idea of getting hurt and while they're not being paid, and are more willing to put themselves on the line once they get into the NFL. And I think if Eubanks is able to kind of get past that and able to do that, I think he has the ability certainly to do something. And I agree. I think that kind of elongated transition, I think that would serve him well in the same way that Blake Jarwin did. If you can find a way to stash him, have him be on a practice squad for most of the season, and then come into next year and let's see what you got after a year of being in our system. I think the Cowboys have had a ton of success doing that. I think we'll probably see exactly what his former teammate McEwen does, with a similar trajectory. I mean, he got a little bit, obviously, more immediate playing time because of injuries and that sort of thing. But look, the Cowboys clearly have a history of developing these guys, a really good history. And tight end is one of the positions that is notoriously difficult to develop, and it takes time. It's just a bit difficult transition from college to football. So college to NFL. I would not be surprised to see the kind of trajectory you said, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about him 365 days from now as a guy that, hey, do we think he could push as that third tight end? Yeah. Is he going to compete with McEwen because he has physical skills that are pretty rare in this tight end room and pretty rare, frankly, across the league.
Last thing. He's a receiving tight end on a blocking, a run heavy team. I can see why you'd get a little frustrated after a while, and maybe the effort wouldn't always be there. I get it. But it doesn't seem like, at least it doesn't sound like he moped around and complained because he ended up being named the team captain on Michigan. So I think he's just a really interesting player that we'll know more about 2 or 3 months from now when we get to training camp. We see how he looks in the preseason. He's somebody I'm really excited to see about because you can see the talent is there. Can he unlock it and kind of get better as a blocker in the NFL? We'll see.
I will say this real quick. I don't want to question his effort at all because I don't think it's an effort thing, because he does at least go through the motions to get into position to be sealed off. And he clearly cares about what he's putting on tape and is aware of that because he at least goes through the motions. It's just when he gets there, he's not really engaging anybody, and he's certainly not really blocking anybody. And there's times when you see him and he's like physical, right? And he'll side swipe a guy into the ground, but it's not, engage, latch, drive, finish. It's more just kind of look, I'm here. I did my job. So that sort of thing. And that's it when it comes to blocking.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about Built Bar, the absolute best tasting protein bar on the market. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate with amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON and get 15% off your next order when you use the promo code LOCKEDON15. That is promo code LOCKEDON15. All right, Landon, the last guy we're going to talk about is somebody who is very, very interesting. Tyler Coyle from Purdue. He's actually a transfer from Connecticut. He played the first 4 years of his career at Connecticut, transferred this year, only played 4 games for Purdue because it was a weird season in the Big Ten. 6'1.5", 209 pounds, ran a 4.36 40-yard dash, 11-1 broad jump. I don't know what's going on with these UConn guys, but they can always jump out of the gym. 39-inch vertical. What did you see on film when you watched Tyler Croyle?
It's a very odd career. It's very odd, right? To start all those games for UConn. And then if I remember correctly, the defensive coordinator, I think, left UConn and went to Purdue. Yes. And that's actually the reason that Tyler transferred, was because he wanted to be with that same coordinator.
Yep. Things
did not go, I would say, as planned in Purdue. I think he showed you some things for sure at Purdue, but I think, it was a last minute thing. It's his last season. Obviously the season was very odd. He didn't show the kind of stuff, at least in what I saw, he didn't show the same kind of stuff that he had shown at UConn previously at Purdue. It looked more just like it wasn't quite a fit for his skill set, what he was doing, right? Like it just felt like he was a little bit more out of place or at least he wasn't caught up to everything that was going on at Purdue, right? Yes. At UConn, you see a playmaker. I mean, this guy,
you saw a guy that could have been easily a 4th, 5th round pick, easily.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you see that kind of ability. I mean, the testing. Let's talk about the testing first. At no point do I see that level of athlete on the field. Do you? I don't see that kind of athleticism in his game.
I don't see that much. I mean, when you're talking about somebody who's like a 99 percentile athlete, that's insane.
Yeah, so I guess that was the first thing that was surprising, is that unfortunately, kind of with these UDFA guys, a lot of times you get a certain amount of information up front before you go into them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'd seen the testing. I didn't see that kind of stuff going on. I think he is you see a good athlete on the field for sure. I mean, clearly he belongs, but not the kind of guy who's like, a full sigma above everybody else, right? So I think that's an interesting thing to me, is exactly where's that athleticism gone, right? Is it because he's not diagnosing things as well? Is he not seeing it as quickly? He doesn't seem to be he seems to be an athlete out there playing to a large degree, but also at the same time, not the kind of athlete that we saw in testing. So I think that there is some instinct stuff there. He played a lot of safety, but I don't know that that's necessarily I don't know that I would like him as a back safety, even though his athletic profile seems to fit that to a T.
I think he's the box safety in the NFL, right?
For sure. And I've even heard talk about him playing linebacker. Like, he's too small for that. I mean, the same way that I guess he's not too small if you're going to play JOK. Yeah. I mean, he's right on that edge, right? I would probably prefer him in the box for sure, as a box, as an overhang defender of some sort, right? I think he is a guy that has, obviously physical skills that are well beyond his playing skill right now. So if you can find a way to kind of have the game slow down for him, figure out a way to leverage that athletic ability into some sort of instinct that he has. I just think that he hasn't been used at a position where his instincts are helping him, I guess is the best way to put it. Right.
I think that's fair.
He needs shorter angles, and I think he needs to. He can't. It doesn't seem like he's seeing it develop in front of him very well. So I think, putting him in the box, putting him closer to the line of scrimmage where he can see and go, I think that's probably the best fit for a guy like this.
All right, two things. First of all, absolutely, you watch the 2019 film of him, just a totally different player than what we saw in 2020. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Like, he transferred during a weird COVID offseason, right? And Purdue played 4 games this year, I believe, 4 or 5 games. He only played 4 games. And so he never really got comfortable in that scheme. On top of, in case you guys didn't know, UConn just didn't play football at all this year. So I think he tried to get out of that situation to somewhere where he could play. Oh, that's
right. Yeah, that explains that. Yeah.
So he went from, I think it's a pretty big jump in competition from UConn to Purdue. Now you're playing in the Big Ten, right? So there's all that kind of stuff that's factored in. And I think that's maybe why he was a little bit more hesitant. But I think, and when we're talking about him transferring, translating to the NFL, we're talking about this wrong, Landon. Like, he's probably not a free safety. He's probably a box safety. Maybe he's a linebacker, but he's going to make the NFL by special teams, right? Mm-hmm. And when you find a guy that's 6'1", 210 pounds and can run in the 4.3s, that just screams special teams demon, right?
Yep.
And I think he is a pretty good tackler. So I can see why the Cowboys were aggressive in going out and getting him as an undrafted free agent because, again, not many guys like that. I would not be surprised at all if he makes the team as a special teamer, but
Absolutely.
we never see him play a snap on defense during his entire NFL career. Wouldn't shock me at all.
This could be the guy that they are trying to replace CJ Goodwin with, right?
Perfect. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a reason that these guys get paid, that certain undrafted free agents get paid more money than others, right? And the reason is that they think that you're going to make the team, and that even paying you that amount of money as an undrafted free agent is a steal compared to whatever the person whose spot you're taking, right? And if you're getting paid that kind of money and they think that you're going to play, there's two things that's happening. Somehow they think that you're going to make the team at the position that you were drafted in, like Ron Leary maybe would be a good example. Or in this case, like you said, this guy is more than likely going to make the team simply because he's going to probably be able to play every special teams unit and play it well because of that athletic profile. So, yeah, I would not at all be surprised if this is a guy that is a bone special that potentially you could see as a I don't know if he's CJ Goodwin replacement, but another, at the very least, another type of CJ Goodwin on the team who is just like your pure special teams demon.
So he might be competing with like Jaron Curse and maybe even like Noah Brown for one of those special team spots. And if it's close and you can save $500,000, because again, this is gonna be a theme of this podcast. The Cowboys are gonna be pinching pennies for the next couple of years because they have big contracts to Dak and Amari Cooper and Zeke. So saving $500,000 on get player number 52 on your roster isn't insignificant, right? And if it's close, I think they're going to go with the young players. So Tyler Coyle, I think is a very interesting down the roster guy that I would not be shocked at all if he makes the 53-man roster. Any final comments on any of these three players?
No, I think we kind of covered their odds of making the team. I think all these guys probably have a plan on the team in some form of fashion, whether it's practice squad early on or whatever. Each one are obviously being affected by their individual position groups, but you look at the guys like Coyle who are likely to actually make the roster because of what they can actually do on game day, even though it's not their actual position. And that's kind of how you read these tea leaves properly. The money that they give these guys means something. It may not mean something by the end of training camp, but it certainly means something to how they feel about these guys up front. And if they're paying them big money, I don't always view it as, why are we paying these guys, tryout guys, a whole bunch of money? They're paying these guys a bunch of money up front that looks like a lot of money for UDFA, but when we get to the 53-man roster and this guy's playing every week on special teams,
bingo,
it's pennies on the dollar compared to what you should be paying a veteran.
Absolutely. It's going to be really fascinating to see which of these three make it. Really quickly, of the three guys we talked about, which one do you think is the most likely to make the roster?
I think it's Coyle for the reasons we talked about. I mean, special teams are what's going to make this team. I do like the chances of the other guys, making the squad one form or another. I don't know if that's actually on the 53 or on the practice squad, but I do like the odds of them sticking around for the Cowboys until next year to try to do this all again.
That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audacity, wherever you get your podcasts. Continue to follow us on YouTube. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher, and we will see you next time.